Welcome back, everyone, to episode 30 of the Minot Business Podcast presented by Bennett Creative Media. I am your host, Easton Bennett, and today we are chatting with Jamie Swenson. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bennett.
Lost my mic here. We're having mic issues already from the beginning. Here we go. Okay, we're back into it. So we're going to get right into the questions like we do always. So what exactly, we're talking about the Trinity Health Foundation. What exactly is the Trinity Health Foundation?
The Trinity Health Foundation was founded in 1922 when the first Trinity Health Hospital was being built. And it was to help raise funds for the first hospital. The first hospital is only $65,000 to build.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And now we're looking at the new hospital, which is what, like $500 million or something
yes,
like that?
with inflation, we're now at $561 million.
Okay.
So, but there's a few advancements, It's a little different. But between the 100 years of building hospitals, we have other programs that we help. Basically, if it helps with health and wellness in our region, we're about at the foundation. So, and our region is what Trinity serves, which is 20 counties in North Dakota and 5 in Montana.
Okay. I didn't even know they went all the way over to Montana. Okay. Yep. So that's news to me. So Jamie, then what exactly is your job at the foundation?
I am the development officer at the foundation, and I help create awareness about the foundation, promote our programs, and also help raise funds.
So this is an exciting episode because last week we had on Mindy. She's the president and CEO of Aspire Credit Union. And a lot of the times these episodes are with business owners or people that are starting a business. And it's fun to get into conversations with people that aren't necessarily business owners, but they're in the business world. So then we have both perspectives. So I'm excited to keep that theme going this week. So when did you start at Trinity?
I have worked with nonprofits for many years, but I started with Trinity in 2019.
Okay. And I did a little bit of research on you before this. So you were a marketing specialist at a different company before this. What did the transition period look like from going from that old position to now you're working for the foundation?
Well, to really back it up, over 10 years ago, I worked for the Greater Minot Zoological Society for the Roosevelt Park Zoo.
Okay.
I worked for them for a good 5 years, took some time off to start a family. And then I thought I wanted to still do marketing, but be more in the business end. And I did take a job with a local media station. And that was a good experience. The zoo invited me back to be on a cabinet of theirs when they were working on the big cat exhibits.
Okay.
The new ones, the new lion and tiger exhibit.
Yep.
And
which are awesome.
Yes. And I realized I really missed the nonprofit world. It was gnawing at me. So I started looking and met up with some people from Trinity, and this came about.
Okay. So the nonprofit world, let's get into that a little bit down the road. Did you always know that you were business minded, business oriented, marketing mind, or when did you kind of know you wanted to go into that field?
I always knew it was business for me. That's what I wanted to do. I was pretty much raised in my dad's law office, and then my mom was an executive. So it was like my chores after school was to make sure, this is dating me, make sure there's enough paper in the fax machine. Cause boy, if mom didn't get her reports when she got home. Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always kind of ran in the family a little bit then.
Yeah. Like it wasn't like clean or cook. It was, make sure the equipment's running, answer phones when dad had court. I was probably doing things.
Okay. Yeah.
Or maybe a little mature for me, but I knew how to make a will when I was 10. I knew basic questions to ask someone to write up a will.
There you go.
The nonprofit thing snuck up on me. The zoo was supposed to just be a fun job.
Okay.
And I like event planning. I like marketing, and it's just two worlds that meet. It's a business, but you're doing it for a good cause. So feels good for the soul. And yeah.
So you've had a few different positions, like you said, what does the transitioning look like? I know that's one topic where kids coming up nowadays that are either graduating high school or college, a lot of people say if you have too many jobs on your resume, it looks bad, whatever that might be. What would be your advice for people that are, switching maybe to a new position, how that can advance their career?
Well, it's not as common to stay somewhere 24 years. And if you can, and it works out that way, great. But for me, it was life circumstances. I liked the places I was at. I'd have been happy to stay at them, but it's just life. I had family needs, different needs in my life. But just know you don't always have to stay somewhere. There's a season for everything. And maybe your time, that was a good time for you and the company. And maybe there's somewhere else that could use your talents. Just know that you have options.
Do you think there's a stereotype about switching positions, that it should be more I don't know if it's frowned upon, but do you think people should actively find, not that they need to leave these positions, but if something better comes up, that maybe that is the right move?
It just depends on the circumstance. I mean, it's one thing to switch positions, like I have, it hasn't been a lot, but it's just been, or to me, it doesn't seem like a lot. It's one thing to jump every 3 to 6 months. I don't know if you're really making a difference somewhere, because it really takes so many months to get acclimated and used to a new position and be able to implement things.
Yeah.
But, so I think it depends on the field and what you're doing, but just be open to new experiences and different things. I was tickled when this came along. Cause this was a new position. They had just received funding for it, and it was a lot of thought, but, and the media company I worked for, it was hard to say goodbye, but they got it. I think they saw when I was going to cabinet meetings and the clients I had, the nonprofits I was really excited about. I mean,
it was kind of just a good fit.
They were very supportive, and they said, we know this is where your heart is. So it was all good terms, and they've helped me in my new position. So it's really about relationships and relationship building,
which is awesome. And we're going to get into, there we go. I don't know what the issue with this is, which is awesome. We're going to get into relationships a little bit down the road. So what is your mindset like when you get a new position, going from the media company to now Trinity, you're going to have different responsibilities. Things are going to look a little bit different. What is your mindset, or what would you say your mindset should be like going into a new role, new responsibilities?
I would say, be open-minded, be aware, realize just because it was, you did it this way at one place, there's a new culture where you're at. Really try to acclimate to a new culture. What's great about going into marketing, you can work anywhere. You can work at a zoo. You can work at a media company. You could work at the hospital.
Everybody needs marketing, right?
Right. You could work for the government. But that was a big learning. Well, the zoo was a big learning curve because I was sitting in meetings with zookeepers and veterinarians. And as a joke once, when I was fairly new, they left a message on my desk saying I needed to call a scarlet ibis at another zoo.
Yeah, that'll do
it. But then moving into a hospital, I didn't realize this. I acclimated, got used to the terms, but then we had someone else new to our team.
Okay.
And I didn't realize all the jargon and short terms. And she's like, okay, could you back that up? And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm a hospital person now.
Yeah.
I better.
You're like, you're going to have to explain things to me like I'm 5, because whatever you're saying now, it's a little bit.
Hold on, I don't know. So we've even noticed that when we've given some tours of the new hospital, we'll be like, this is the PACU, this is the KDU, this is,
and people are like, what is
and
that
these
mean?
are intelligent business leaders and leaders in our community. Like, okay, can you remind me what that is?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. And that's kind of cool that there is a transition. Every industry and thing you talking, even, the film and video industry, there's so many things that I'll say like, oh, grab me this thing. And people look at me like I have 3 heads. I'm like, okay, yeah, they don't really understand that, but every industry has their own jargon, which is kind of cool. So you said your job title, development officer. What exactly does that role entail? What does your day-to-day look like?
Oh gosh, every day's different. And it just depends. Like COVID kind of threw us off for a while. We really had to shift gears, but a development officer really should be, I think people mistake it for a sales position. It's not. You are building relationships, creating awareness, getting the word out there to say what your organization does. On the other end, yes, you should be helping with fundraising. But if you're doing the first part, the fundraising will come. You will help create awareness, help people know what you're doing, and they'll want to get involved.
Okay. So it's more marketing than sales.
Right. Yeah. It's more marketing, more cause marketing. Is that the right word? Yeah.
Okay. So when you're going into the marketing field, what do you enjoy about the marketing side of things? And I know it's more, like you said, cause marketing, but what do you enjoy about, going out there, building those relationships?
Well, when I picked that as a major, I really thought it was going to be business and meetings and reports. And I mean, there is that. You do have to look at numbers and be responsible and make sure your efforts are going where you are. But what I really enjoy about it, it's business, but you still get to be creative. You still, we've made videos for the foundation, but we need them. It's not like, ooh, fun, we got to make a video today. It's you can be creative. Even with graphics or things you put out there, or brochures, social media posts. So
would you say that's your favorite part, is the creative side of things?
Yes, you get to really express yourself. And even with an event, last year we had our first gala.
Okay.
And the theme was back to the Roaring 20s because it was our 100th anniversary.
Okay, that's awesome.
We had so much fun with that, but the gala was a huge success. And the comments we got was because it was interesting. We we made it an atmosphere. We
Instead of just a generic where you're
come
dressed.
to the banquet. Here's some chicken.
Yeah.
Like we had a special before and after party.
Okay.
And it was, we called it speakeasy because the VIP lounge speakeasy, because it was the 20s.
Yeah, which is perfect.
And there was something special to go in there. We had special entertainment and you got a little gift and the food was a little nicer in there. But it also added 40% to each ticket sale. If you bought that, it was an additional.
Okay.
So, the two can marry. It's kind of an art.
Yeah.
But again, if you like what you're doing and get to express yourself, it can really become an art.
And that's what's super exciting about marketing. That's kind of why I went into it. I'm in more of the creative side of things, but if you're just doing the marketing where it's, very mundane, the standard marketing, then it can kind of get repetitive and boring. But if you are doing fun things like that, that's when things can get exciting. So what does it take to be skilled at marketing in your head? What are some things you've learned over the years that you maybe didn't know when you started?
Well, marketing's different for everyone. Where I would say marketing, really experienced. Now, I don't want to discourage anyone who's new to it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize how much marketing is out there or even how much marketing you do personally.
Yeah.
So even if it's just a family barbecue and you're like, I really want to have it at my place. I want to encourage people to, do this. But experience. And just because it's not, say, a paid position or paid job, it's an opportunity to get out in the community, volunteer, get in groups. You'd be surprised how often you can use it. Or even if you have a friend that has a startup or starting a new career, help them with their headshot, help them with their social media post. Just jump in.
There's so many aspects of marketing too. I think that's what's cool. Like you mentioned, there's the graphic design, there's the video, there's the photo, then there's running paid advertising, then there's events. It's kind of cool that there are those all-encompassing routes. Is there one specific one that you kind of wanted to go into?
I was really fascinated by media, which surprised where I had
like paid media.
Yeah. Okay. Which really surprised people when I was in it. They're not to anything against paid media. I was more like, I want to put campaigns together and I want to sell or work for an ad agency.
Yep.
And all my instructors and anyone I worked with, they're like, you need to be on the creative end. Like they're like, you can sell it, but your ideas are really.
Which is kind of cool that there's a transition where you think you're going into one thing and then they kind of point you in the direction of like, hey, this is more your personality. So I want to transition a little bit into the team now. You guys have a pretty tight-knit team there at the foundation. What's it like working with a smaller team to run the foundation?
It's been a challenge. Recently, we were able to add one more person, which we would love to add even more, but we are so grateful to have another development officer who's going to be the marketing officer there too. So I can focus more on development and the rest of us can focus more on development.
Yep.
But having a tight-knit team, there's benefits to it. I mean, we work close together. We know what the other one's doing. We can, if you need help with something or someone to fill in, they know what's going on, that they can pretty much fill in depending on what it is.
I think it's important not important to have a small team, but it is nice when you have a small team because it almost feels like a family. Do you guys feel like that when you're working together, that it almost feels like a small family instead of a huge corporation of 100 people running this thing?
Yeah, it's not faceless or I don't know. When I have worked for other corporations, I guess that goes back to the nonprofits. Nonprofits are notoriously understaffed. And what's strange is that's another thing I miss about the zoo. I still talk to a lot of my former coworkers. They've become like family.
Yeah.
And so, when you work for a nonprofit, the teamwork, you bring out the best in each other, where maybe if you're for a larger corporation, it's nameless, it's faceless. You're emailing Chicago or
very transactional.
Yeah. The Minneapolis office wants to know about this. They want this number. They want that. They don't know the blood, sweat, and tears that went behind it or the circumstances.
So do you have any tips and tricks for working with the team then? How, with the smaller team, do you make things run a little bit more effectively?
Well, I never looked at it that way, but you're probably right with that because everyone knows their role. And, it's like the old saying, if you want something done, get a busy person to do it.
Yep.
I think it's, you see what everyone else is doing, so you step it up too.
Okay. So productivity wise then, how do you optimize your day-to-day routine, make sure, things are getting done when they need to be and staying productive on the day-to-day basis? You specifically.
Me. Oh gosh. And that's a challenge because every day can be different. There could be days that I have like 4 or 5 donor visits and other days I don't.
Yep.
And it can't be like, well, I only see donors on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You go when they can, or if you have a lot of speaking engagements. So I try to look at my week day to day, and you have to block out, okay, for like creative, I need to meet with my gala committee, or I said to the gala committee I was going to design this, or we work with the graphic artist at Trinity, but you know, like you block out times. For me, I have to block times. Okay, I need to talk to more. I need to call.
Time blocking. Okay.
I need to call and talk to more donors this week. Where am I free? It's like, oh, I've got Tuesday afternoon and Thursday morning. And I schedule it. I put it in my schedule. I am calling. And if I'm really organized, I even write a list.
There you go. And that's one thing that I've tried to implement is time blocking versus a to-do list. Some works better for other people. I like to time block and put, okay, this hour I have to do this. The next 2 hours I have to edit this video. Then after that, we're recording podcasts, where I feel like if sometimes you just have a list.
The to-do list is endless. But if you have like, where can I feel like you're putting it somewhere that you're more likely to get it done.
Yep. And I totally agree with you. So as far as donor goes, these donor calls that you're having, maybe give us a little inside look. What does that look like? So are you calling these donors and saying, hey, this is what we're raising money for? What does that look like?
Well, it's a lot of interaction with donors. And that's also really key when you work for any nonprofit. They need to be kept aware of what you're doing. And you want a donation to be, and for the donor to be a good experience. You don't want it to be, you just said transaction. You want it to be transformational, not transactional. So whether it's a $10 gift or a $10,000 gift, they need to know the impact and what it means. And we do some kind of old school stuff, but I've had even young people say to me, I got a handwritten thank you note from you. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
You know, they'll see you somewhere 2 months later.
Being appreciated. Right.
And they'll say, that wasn't a really big gift I gave. I'm like, actually, it was. It is impactful. So when we reach out to donors, it's a lot of people. We're not cold calling. It's people that have donated to us, have an interest. We also work with our vendors because they want to know what's going on, especially with the new hospital and how they can help. Yeah. And the gala, a lot of them love coming to this gala. They're like, yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, like, what's next year's theme going to be?
Yes. And then it's just reaching out and also reaching out to area businesses. I had a longer meeting with an area business today, and they are just ecstatic about the new hospital. They think it's great. They love the part of town it's going to. Yeah. But then you get into the passion of it. The person I met with today, she's had a lot of family that's needed the hospital. So she sees and recognizes like how impactful it's going to be.
The benefit.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Okay. So before we talk any more about any more questions, we're going to hear from this week's sponsor. Again, Midco Business. Is your business moving up and to the right? Put Midco's business technology to work for you, so you never have a slow day at the office. From premium internet and phone plans to custom private networking and advertising, they have a solution for every type of business, large or small. Get paired with an account representative to create your suite of services and make the switch with ease with dedicated business client fulfillment and support teams. No data caps, flexible contracts with month-to-month or long-term options, built-in DDoS protection, and more. Explore services and request a free consultation at midco.com/business today. Midco, thank you again for sponsoring this episode. I'm a Midco user myself, and I've loved it ever since I've had it. I have the fastest internet you can get, and really I've been super pleased with all of these files that I have to transfer for video production, even the podcast clips, all of that stuff. So thank you again, Midco, for sponsoring today's episode. And Jamie, we're going to get back into the questions here now. I want to pivot a little bit into the fundraising side of things. That's super important for nonprofits is fundraising. So did you have any experience with fundraising before you came to the foundation? I assume yes, because you were at a previous nonprofit, but let's talk about maybe the beginning when you didn't have any experience. What was that like learning the world of fundraising?
Well, you know, before I probably had the same attitude everyone else had. Like, oh, I don't have to ask for money. Oh, I can't tell people. Where you've got to change your mindset. Like, this is an important cause. And I was surprised because there's a collegiate DECA program at Minot State when I was there. And they were saying, we need you to raise money for your trip. I'm like, I'll just pay for my trip. I'm not going to go ask people for money.
I don't want to ask anyone.
And I remember the instructor telling me, she's like, you're going into marketing. Why do you think people market? Yeah. And you have that aha moment and you feel really stupid. And so she's like, just explain to people, this is for school. You want to go on this trip, you know, how it benefits us, what we need, a future business leader. And I was like, oh, so once I changed that mindset, I went out there and I ended up raising the most money in the club. Yeah. Not to toot my own horn, but nice I went in there. Yeah. Well, at the time I was like, gosh, I hope this is enough. I had such a bad attitude. I got a late start. So I was feeling not great about it. Okay. Got to the meeting. I'm like, okay. And then everyone's like, well, I got this and I talked to this person. And then I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, I raised the most money.
Yeah,
So I'm like, oh, okay.
I did pretty good.
Maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
So
And that is one thing when people go into business. I know when I went into business, even telling people my prices, it's like, oh, I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, why should I ask this person for money? I'm like, okay, well, if you change your mindset, like you said, into that you really, and you kind of have to believe in your product or service or whatever you're putting it towards, that the money is going to a good cause and that it's going to be beneficial for both sides. So I totally agree with you on that end. What are some events or things you and the foundation, the team, are doing to raise capital and fundraise?
Well, and I just want to skip back to that question you asked. Also, the thing about fundraising is at the foundation, we may be raising funds, but we also give out a lot of funds too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that twofold. I'm like, if we're not doing this part, we can't help with our other programs.
Yep.
So sorry, what was this new question?
No, that's good. I'm glad you added that. Some events or things that you are doing to raise capital. I know you talked about the gala, and what are some other things and events that you guys might be doing?
Well, we Twice Blessed took us on for our chapel, and that has gone really well. So we're very thankful for that. That's the St. Joseph's Foundation's Twice Blessed. The gala, that is used to just be like the physician's dinner, and they came to the foundation a few years ago and said, why don't we make this a fundraiser?
Okay.
Why don't we open this to public? We see each other every day.
Yeah.
Let's open up to other levels of providers at the hospital. And we did that this year, and it went over. We knew it would do well, but first year you still don't know what you're getting.
Yep.
And we were pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
And then, there's smaller things we do, like an in-staff one we do is Fundraiser Fridays. We've had area businesses donate different items to us that we can bid on, and you bid $10 on it. And then Monday you can bid as many times as you want. Like HR donated a PTO day one day.
Okay.
So paid time off day.
Yep.
An extra day off. So you can spend $10, $20, and people loved it.
Yeah.
And then you pull the name. We were only going to do that for last winter, kind of like a get through the winter blues, see how that goes, new fundraiser. Staff started calling us because we're like, well, we don't want to keep asking our people too much. Yeah. They know we're here.
Yeah.
And there's other opportunities, but they're like, where's Fundraiser Friday? We what are we bidding on today? Like,
it's almost like a game too.
Yes. It was like the QVC, like, what's the special today? We have a text to give option where you could text to give to us. We started that this last year. We also have a roundup program where, when you go to stores, they're like, would you like to round up to this thing in Chicago or Minneapolis? Well, you could do one right for the Trinity Health Foundation. And here's the really fun part. You can cap it. You can say, I only want to do $20, $40 a month. Yeah. And then it stops.
Okay.
So that's a really good one we've really liked. And then there's smaller ones. Like we have, we sold some logo wear this year for our 100th anniversary.
Okay.
And then right now we also have the Trinity cookbook. We did a centennial cookbook, and it's not just recipes. They're really fun recipes, but the history in it, there's lots of pictures and timelines, and even some pictures I haven't seen yet. I'm like, oh, that's
surprise
fun
for everybody.
Yes.
No, that's cool. And there's a lot of creative ways you went on that. So would you have any tips for anyone listening? Maybe they just started a position at a nonprofit and they're trying to figure out some tips on how they can raise money or come up with creative ideas. Do you have any advice for those people?
Well, know your story, know what you do, get out there and help with it. Really know why it matters. And you need to be passionate about it. If you're not an animal lover, you probably shouldn't work for a nonprofit that cares for animals.
Yeah. Don't work at the zoo.
Right. If kids aren't your thing, I don't know if you should be at a nonprofit that's helping kids.
Yeah.
So
you might sabotage the company on purpose.
You've got to have a passion for it, but really get to know it. Get to know the story. Get to know the people that are in the field and what they're doing. Hear those stories. So when you're out there talking, you need to build that trust with people. They need to know that you care and what it's about.
And people can see through you, I think, if you don't care. It's very easy to tell if someone really cares about what they're talking about or if they're just kind of, speaking with a forked tongue, I like to say. So what is your take on today's social media landscape? Obviously, companies, you have to be on social media nowadays, 2022, well, going to be 2023 next week. But, what's your take on the social media landscape?
Well, about 20 years ago, when I first started in marketing, it was, you'll probably, there was radio, TV, print, and maybe billboard, maybe some outdoor advertising. I love that there's more options. Don't be scared of it. I've noticed people that are from my era, either they're embracing it or they're scared of it. And
very
it's like,
polarizing.
Right. And you can't be, you're not going to overnight know what it is. But I'm like, okay, just start a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Just start a LinkedIn. Like just take it one step at a time, digestible parts.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's,
I think it's a great opportunity if managed right. And if you're not going to manage it and get out there and do it, it's going to manage itself and you're not going to have control.
And you don't know how to do things until you start doing them. So that's one thing to think, obviously you're not going to be a social media expert the first day you start it. So it kind of just takes that experience of working through it. So let's pivot a little bit into, the relationships you've built. You built a variety of relationships with businesses around town. Obviously, you always see the photos of you guys either giving one of those giant checks to somebody or them giving it to you, and you have these relationships. How do you do that? How do you build these relationships?
Well, luckily I've lived in this community for 20 plus years. So, it's a small community. I'm sure this has benefited your business too. People or they're like, hey, Easton's, he does videos now, or they might even know a relative of yours like, hey, so-and-so's nephew, I know he's been making videos.
Yep.
So that's how it is. A lot of it's just people or someone who knows someone. Mm-hmm. You can't be shy. A lot of times it's me just calling up and saying, hey, but people are curious. We all care about our health, and healthcare is important. Yeah. So a lot of it's been calling to saying, can I call and give you an update about the new hospital? You go and just tell the story. And most people care about healthcare, or they're like, I want to hear more about this NICU, or I was in the ER and it was crazy. Can you tell me what's the plans for the new ER? And there's always an end. And it's probably the biggest construction project in Minot since, I'm guessing, the base. Yeah. I mean, not to discount the flood protection, but that's ongoing. That's a big, people are curious.
Well, and I remember when they first announced that they were building a new hospital, and I was like, wow, that's going to be a large undertaking. And it's exciting because Minot is a small city, you could say, but it's like a big, small city. So it's big city, but it still has a small town feel. Whereas this hospital is going to help the city start to move out in that direction where.
Well, right. Like the current ER, I know I've been in there, with my young kids, and I've always been like, everyone in Minot hurt today. Why is there? But now that you know the figures, it's not Minot. It's we're serving how many other counties. It's easy when you're in Minot to be Minot centric. Yeah. But we're the only level 2 trauma center for 100-something miles. Yeah. We're the only NICU for 100-something miles. This is another thing that I think is really interesting about our hospital. We're the second busiest birthing city in Minot, or not Minot, in North Dakota. So that shocked me. We used to be the busiest. We used to be number 1.
A lot of babies coming out of this area.
Yeah. So.
I wonder why. Do you know what number 1 is?
Oh, I think it's Fargo.
Okay. So. No, they got a cheat code anyways. They got like 15 million people there, right? So what's the community support like in Minot for organizations like yours, specifically nonprofits?
Well, there's a lot of great causes in Minot, a lot of great support, different nonprofits. And I know it's a lot of niche ones. There's things for the homeless, there's, things for children. So we've had a lot of support. I think part of it's our age. I mean, when you've been around for 100 years, or even people that are new to hearing about our foundation, they're like, you want to know a nonprofit's trustworthy. It's like, are you just some startup? Are you...
You've been around for a month and you're just trying to pull some money from people?
Is my money funding your trip to the Caribbean? No. Yeah. It's easy to say, no, we've been around for 100 years and we plan on being here for 100 more. Yeah,
which is awesome. So you guys are obviously out there in the community. Why do you think it's important to give back to the community so the community in turn gives back to you?
Just like what you said, it's a circle. It's you give what you get, and it's beneficial for us to help promote health and wellness. I mean, yes, we want people to utilize the hospital if they need it, but we really don't want people to be hurt or sick. Prevention's right. Very key. So if we're promoting healthy lifestyles and helping people with their health, that's going to be to our benefit too.
Which is awesome. What does your support system look like? Why is it important to have one? Just as you're, as you move through your business career.
Well, we've had a lot of support. What I really like is the hospital does really support the foundation, and there's a very good working relationship. But on a personal level, I do have my husband's very supportive. He's passionate about what I do. You need to surround yourself with people that they care about what you care about, or care that you care about it. Yeah. So even with my kids, like my son went through a phase where he is going to be so embarrassed he said this. He loved trains, and it was just trains. He's not into them anymore. But you know what? I learned a lot about trains. I did a lot of things I never thought I would for trains. You need to support the people that are in your life, and they'll support you.
So trains, I was just thinking about when I was a kid, I used to have Hot Wheels and I would line them up in a line. And then my mom would always come by and like push one tire out of the way. So it was like crooked and I would just freak out on her. Just freak out
that
on her.
That won't fly at our house.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Hot Wheels too.
Okay. Yeah. So I was like, God, it just brought flashbacks back to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to call my mom after this and tell her, hey, remember when you used to move my, my Hot Wheels? So how do you look at marketing? You obviously have to create an image for Trinity Health Foundation. What do you want people to think of when they hear that name?
I want them to think of us as the premier foundation of Minot. And what's great about our foundation is we're for everyone. I mean, nothing against the niche nonprofits. That's great. It's a good focus. But the thing about giving to the foundation, it's going to benefit anyone that needs healthcare. And at one time or another, someone's going to need healthcare, maybe to different degrees, whether it's cancer or maybe they just need a stitch in the.
And even if it's not you, it's going to be a family member.
Right.
So what would you say the most important lesson you've learned over your career is so far? If you had to, someone was just getting into that, maybe they just graduated, they just got a job, or they're going off on this new startup, what would you tell them? What would be something you've learned that you wish you knew sooner?
Oh gosh, I was thinking about this. I've always had a good work ethic. I was going to say do the work, but that's one thing I've noticed is a lot of people expect things just to come.
Yeah.
Or when they hear about, when I worked for the zoo, I was helping out another nonprofit. I was on their board.
Yeah.
And they're like, how do you get so many people to your events? Like we were doing really well. We even had a segment on a local news station called Jungle Joe. And we used to have a weatherman named Joe. And he called and he said, we asked him to do the weather from the zoo once a week. And he's like, can I be called Jungle Joe? And it turned to, it was
like,
huge.
of course you can. That'd be awesome.
Great for that station. It was great for the zoo. It just really took off. People loved it.
Yeah.
But they're like, this other nonprofit thought it was luck. And they're just like, how do you get people to do this?
Like why people should just be supporting.
Why do people just come to your events? It's like, well, we promote them. We get out there. We tell our story. We were doing the work. And, I sat on their board. I'd suggest things to do. And they're like, well, that sounds like a lot of work. So,
everything that is supposed to be successful or worth it is going to be a lot of work.
Well, and when I first started in healthcare, I was sent to an American Healthcare Philanthropy Conference in Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And, I was taking notes and listening. And one thing they said, they're like, it will be at least 7 conversations before you get a donation from someone. You just don't come in. Hi, Mr. Corporation. We're awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for the $1 million. We need $1 million. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Here's a check.
Yeah. I wish it was like
that. That would be a perfect world, right?
Yeah. And with my experience, if it does happen like that, don't take the check. Something's up.
Yeah. Something is going,
you guys might want to just talk a little bit more.
Yeah. No, that's
take
good.
Take it slow.
Well, it's just like marketing. I think they say 7 points of contact before someone ever thinks about buying. At least 7.
And I remember thinking that because with my other job in media, I was having a good return, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like having to meet with people 7-10 times or back and forth. And
like, this is a lot.
I thought I was used to my younger days where I thought it should be 3. I'm like, I'm making it happen, but I don't know if I'm efficient. But when I heard that at this American Healthcare Philanthropy thing, I felt so much better.
Yeah.
And one thing I've tracked like with reports, because, you keep track of who you've talked to. Okay, have I followed up? They said they want me to talk to them in March. I've started putting attempts, like how many times have we talked or
reached out? Okay.
And, that's also for their benefit. Because, if it's someone, they're like, oh, she's calling again. Or I keep calling. They're like, yeah, we'll see. It just lets you know, is this a good, efficient use of my time and theirs or not?
And a lot of times I've found this when people reach out to me, I had a guy reach out to me the other day saying, hey, we make podcast clips. So for a podcast like this, they'll clip it for Instagram and TikTok and that kind of stuff. In the first 2 emails, I might have looked at him and then I didn't answer him. Maybe he caught me at a bad time. And then the third one, he emailed me and I'm like, oh, he said, bumping this to your inbox. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. And then said, send me your stuff, whatever it is. So it's not, if you hear no the first time, I've learned that it's not always because they don't want to work with you.
It's usually not right now.
You might have catch them at a wrong time. Yeah. So only a couple more here for you. What would be actually, before we go into that one, we'll save that one for last. Did you have any mentors or people that helped you through the business journey, helped you learn quicker? Or was it kind of just the people that you were working with?
I I would say in my younger days, and this might have just been youth and not being open to more mentoring. I was given some good advice that later on, I'm like, oh, I should have done that.
Okay.
And sometimes I was wise enough to take it.
Yeah.
I did have a lot of support. A lot of people believed in me.
Yeah.
So, and that was appreciative. But I noticed as I got further in my career, when I switched things, when I was calling to get references for, when I wanted to work at Trinity Health or to talk about going back in a nonprofit.
Yep.
I had a lot of people saying, oh yeah, I never understood why you got out of that. I'm like, what? So yes, I've had some really great mentors, but the best thing I advise is listen to them. And if people recognize a passion that maybe you're not recognizing, listen.
Awesome. Last question I got for you, and then I'll kind of open up the floor if you want to add anything else. But what would be your Mount Rushmore of advice? Top 4 pieces of advice for someone that's just getting into the, whatever industry might be, or they're just starting a business. I need 4 pieces of advice from you.
Okay, 4. Well, one for marketing. What I regret is I never took a photography class, and that has been more of an element, even if you have a professional photographer on staff.
Yep.
At least even if you're not going to be a professional photographer, still take the class so you can appreciate what they do. You
just kind of know.
You need 101. You need basic knowledge. That was a hard lesson learned really fast.
Okay.
Do what you're passionate about. I know that's hard. And maybe you have to try a few things and you take elements from each of those things, but really care about what you do. Be passionate. It's going to be better for the job and it's going to be better for you. And you're going to get better results all around.
Okay.
Personal satisfaction and doing well.
Yep.
And that's my biggest advice. 3, don't stop learning. Things are going to change, and don't just throw your arms up in the air and like, well, I don't understand social media.
I love that one.
So we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, because I've seen that in my time. It's like, no. If something new is coming up, you learn.
Yeah.
You learn. And for just, again, it goes back, you've got to be open, open to growth. And no, you don't know everything. You may have more experience and know more, but there's always something new to learn.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, or something like that. I think that's a quote. You never want to be the smartest person in the room. And I really like your third one about, if something comes up, because there's, especially in 2022, 2023 now, there's so many things that come up. Like there's a new platform every day. It's like, okay, here's TikTok, figure out how to do TikTok now. Or okay, now here's this new thing you got to learn over here. And if you were to just throw your hands up, like you said, on everything, it'd be a nightmare. And
not all of it's for you. Maybe sometimes learn about it just to rule it out. Like, oh no, this really wouldn't work for what we do.
Yeah.
Or you might find something that works really awesome.
Yeah. And it's a blessing in disguise, which is good. But at least, be open enough to learn about those things. That's all the questions I got for you. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks for having us. And if you want to learn more about the Trinity Health Foundation, just check out our Facebook and Instagram. We're pretty active, and it's Trinity Health ND Foundation, because
Gotcha.
Trinity Health, do follow them too for great updates. But because we're so active with our events and fun things we do, they let us have our own. We're the only department at Trinity that they've let have their own social.
That's awesome. So I'll link all those things in the description below if you guys want to check it out. What is do you know the number off the top of your head, the text to give one?
No, but I can send it to you.
Send it to me, and I'll put that on screen here at the end of the episode. And people, if they're looking to do that, excited about the new hospital, should be a good time. Jamie, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks.
That was episode 30 of the Minot Business Podcast. We will see you guys. I suppose this is the end of the year. This is the last episode of the year, so we will see you guys in 2023.